all these different platforms are pulling so hard because the creators are ultimately like, we are the ones that are creating all of the content that people are even going to the websites for in the first place. It's becoming more and more competitive to get good creators, good content onto their platforms. When you're running all of this stuff as a content creator and you're working on the actual content itself, but you're also trying to work on, oh, I want to try and get this deal, you can waste a whole bunch of time working on some of these things when you also need to still be focusing on the content, the overall structure of everything and running your channels.
This new form of media, which is live audio, is kind of like live streaming, just without the video.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think people are realizing how hard it is to create live content for a long period of time and stay engaging, and how exhausting it is, especially if you're doing it day in, day out. I think the big difference here is there was a partnership between Streamlabs and a partnership with TikTok that you're able to go directly to the app, which is a big difference because it allows you to unlock a level of production value that just doing it from the mobile app would not allow. If like Charmin was to like approach you, and that's like a really cool opportunity. Where they're coming to you, or like Doritos is like coming to you. But in the beginning, focus on brands that just really excite you. That's the brands that I would reach out to in the beginning, because you're just gonna have a much more authentic relationship.
YouTube announces their $100 million Shorts Fund that will be paying out to creators between now and 2022. New features include automatic captions, basic filters with more to come, and access to all of YouTube's content to sample from. So how can I get all the hundo millio?
How can I get the 100 million? I made a tweet the other day about this, which was just creator funds in general. The amount of activity that is happening across every platform is really incredible. We've got the YouTube Short Fund that just got announced. I think it was literally yesterday this got announced. It was $100 million. And they're going to be giving some of the top shorts access to this fund, these funds. And it's true across Snapchat. They're paying out $1 million a day. We've got Clubhouse, which is starting to give folks that are doing great content, they're giving them a grant to like create more great content. We've got Facebook doing the Black Creator Program. There's TikTok, which has a $2 billion fund over the next 2 years. There's just so much activity that's going across the board. And I think specifically to this about the YouTube Short Fund, it is $100 million, and it shows that they really believe and they're getting a lot of traction on the product at YouTube. And they're like, we want to incentivize this more. We want to, make this go faster. And we've seen a lot of our members within Pipeline have a lot of success with shorts in the early days. What's been your experience, David, with shorts and starting to kind of understand the format?
Yeah, I've done quite a bit with shorts lately. We're kind of throwing out a couple of them on my main channel right now, and I'm even considering just creating a completely separate channel around it so I can really pump a lot more volume on some of those things, and kind of considering it with my Instagram and my Reels, as well as the TikTok strategy overall with it. But I think all these different platforms are pulling just so hard to try and get the creators for the platforms, because the creators are ultimately like, we are the ones that are creating all of the content that people are even going to the websites for in the first place. And so it's becoming more and more competitive to get good creators, good content onto their platforms, and they want to reward people for it as well. And what's interesting about YouTube is obviously they have such a good ad platform that even just having the regular videos on some of the channels, that's already great. Shorts don't really translate as well to ad revenue, though. So if you're getting a whole bunch of views on shorts, yeah, you can convert it to other areas for your channel. You can convert it even to other areas of maybe businesses that you run, or even your stream or whatever it might be. There's a lot of different ways you can utilize that, but the actual content itself doesn't do as good as, say, like a 15-minute video that you can throw a couple different ads in on it as well. And so to try and incentivize them just via this fund, it's interesting to see them taking the same approach that some of these other companies have already taken as well. And well, I mean, Shorts is already big enough. I don't know, even in the chat, if you guys have experienced this much, but I know at least on my own YouTube app, there's now a separate button just for Shorts where you can click that at the bottom, and that's like its own feed, similar to how Instagram has its own one for Reels. And I mean, well, I've tried scrolling through it. I'm trying to get an idea. It doesn't seem to be giving me too much gaming content, which I was kind of surprised about. I was seeing like, okay, some of these guys who have already a completely separate channel dedicated to it. Is that some of the content? What's going to pop up on some of these things?
There was a feature that just got, it was the chat where our team was talking about it, Patrick and and Mark, which is where you can watch, say, like a music video, and you can auto generate. So I'm watching someone else's music YouTube video, and I can auto generate a short of like my reaction to that thing. So there's like
On
they're like
YouTube?
on YouTube, yeah, and it wasn't on any gaming content. It was only on like some music content, basically. So you could like imagine like TikTok when it's like all about dancing with the music. That you could easily port that in and kind of make your own content around it. So they're trying to find ways to foster creativity as well, which I think is really cool. And I think one thing that you should keep in mind is, or all creators should keep in mind, is that the YouTube Shorts Fund is they don't know how to monetize shorts yet.
Exactly.
And this is their attempt at, we want to inspire creativity. We want great content here. We're willing to, chicken and egg situation, pay up front to create this great content while we figure out, like our product teams that are working hard behind the scenes, we want them to figure out how to monetize shorts, which is more sustainable for us as a platform. Because these platforms, whether it's TikTok that's paying $2 billion over 2 years, they can't afford to keep spending all this money. It's just to give them enough time to build good monetization products while still rewarding and incentivizing creators.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a different way of creating content, and even there is definitely a way to do it because people are staying on the platform for so long and like consuming so much of it. That's why these competitions are having to happen because TikTok is just taking so much of the market space over in terms of people watching things.
We got a
Um, you
question
know,
from Benji that I want to make sure we touch on because I think it would be really useful for everyone. Is with shorts, is it worth still using as a push to streams or keep it separate? My hunch is, and I would love your thoughts from like your experience on TikTok, David, is it's actually better to make it unique content for shorts rather than trying to like push people to your lives and using like a story.
Yeah, I mean, the more you can get traction on that individual piece that you're actually creating on, the better. The ways that you can bring people over to it as well. Like if you can find a good way to weave it in and make it obvious that you're streaming or having it, even if it's in a caption, even if it's just, some people even just at the very end will say, click plus to follow for more. Or, they just throw something quick in so you can get that advertisement out because I think it's totally fine to self-advertise on your own content. I do it all of the time on a lot of my stuff, and it's been very helpful for it. But you do want to have some of those pieces do good on their own and be able to live on their own as they're pushing things in general.
Speaking of that, new tools that are coming out, there's what's exciting is I think all the platforms are pushing each other to innovate and create new tools. Instagram and Snap have been pretty busy lately. Mark, roll a clip.
Instagram announces creator shops and new branded content promotional deal frameworks, all in an effort to usher in the age of the creator middle class economy. Plans are to establish a new integrated ad offering for creators to get paid directly for promoting products in Facebook through an affiliate recommendation marketplace. Snapchat is also releasing their creator marketplace, which will connect content creators to advertisers. A select group of AR creators will start the program, with the larger marketplace expanding in early 2022 to all Snap creators. The marketplace is similar to gig websites like Fiverr, but will aim to be a more robust marketing tool to help Snap creators create more robust advertising campaigns and brand activations. Snoop, you said to focus on getting one platform right. Which one should I go all in on? Facebook or Snapchat? And what revenue streams should I get ready for with these new tools?
Yeah, I think to answer that question directly, it's subjective. I can't tell anyone listening, you should always go in on this platform. It's very subjective to you and your content and what lights you up. Like some people, just love Twitch as a platform. And like Facebook, they just don't jive with it, don't get it. Some people don't have the time to create live content, so YouTube is going to be a better format. So it's really that the answer to that question is it's a little subjective based on your own personal circumstance and your own content. So just keep that in mind. One thing I definitely encourage if you're a new creator that's listening in is don't try and be everywhere all the time, especially if you have a finite amount of time. If you only have a couple of hours each evening or even a couple of hours in a week, doing live content might not be the best use of your time. That's one thing to consider. Like VOD content might be a better place to start. So with all these tools, I think influencer marketing and marketplaces and this idea of all these brands can choose from a bunch of creators and like do a paid activation, paid sponsorship. It's been talked about for like 5 to 10 years. And there doesn't seem to be anyone that's done it right. Or one, are you bullish on Instagram or Snap's ability to get this right?
I don't know. It's just like if you're focused on a specific, I think the hard thing is if you're when you're focused on such a specific thing or one specific platform, like sometimes I do integrations and they branch into multiple different platforms and multiple different ways to do it. Even when I was, much earlier on in everything that I was doing, because sometimes having some more of the tailored approach, knowing how to work with a specific creator for it, like that's where a lot of these agencies pop up. That's where a lot of even just like even if it's an agency just on the brand side and working with more individualized kind of aspects has been effective for people. Um, I would love to see it actually come together and really done well and done right and made it so it's trustworthy on both sides because that's something that becomes an issue too is like are the people actually going to pay that are saying that they're going to pay as well as are the people that are going to deliver actually going to deliver for the
Yeah.
company. So it's like
I think that's
there's
the beauty. If
concerns
there's
on
that
both
escrow
sides.
element, if there's like the money is up in escrow, if the
Yeah.
deliverables are done and they hit these KPIs, money is released, and there's no like waiting, 6 months before you get paid. It's just like handled really streamlined. That's the holy grail. I just haven't seen anyone, and there's like a bunch of startups and a bunch of these platforms that tried to do it over the last 5-10 years and just haven't managed to nail it. And I think one of the ones that I was privy to when I was working at Facebook, they were building out, the kind of branded marketplace where you could see a bunch of content creators and you could choose, I want to work with this creator, and then the creator could go, okay, I'll take that opportunity. I don't know. I'd never seen a lot of people use it. I don't know if you tried it, like where there might be sponsored activations in there.
Sure. Yeah, I've seen those pop up. I've seen them. I haven't necessarily used one directly through Facebook before. There was a couple other companies that I think had been bought out by other companies and that I had used it in the past though. But usually it was just an activation that like finally one of them kind of came through. But like they reached out to me from email and like on the side and then had me go through the website and the tool. So I wasn't even using the tool for the sake of using the tool. Like I was just using it because, that's just the way that they wanted to actually handle it. But really it was just like this total mess. And so it's hard to do some of that. And I think the bigger challenge too is like filtering through some of those things. You got to imagine, especially even at, years ago when I was doing this, I still had a massive influx of all of these requests for sponsorships or whatever that were, not necessarily something that I would want to do. They're just kind of throwing them out there. So to even weed through that in the first place took a lot of time to kind of even figure it out. And today it's even much crazier than all of that. So I don't even spend time. I actually have somebody that helps me with all that, right? That's the whole point of an agency at that level of it. But I think in the mid tier, there is I think there is a space for this. It's just a matter of can you build the trust on both sides of it? Can it be flexible enough to work for all the different platforms and can they filter it to where it's not going to take up a whole bunch more time than it's even worth you spending on in the first place because when you're running all of this stuff as a content creator and you're working on the actual content itself but you're also trying to work on oh I want to try and get this deal or even reach out to people and manage these things and then you spend hours even talking with somebody and then it falls through. It's like you can waste a whole bunch of time working on some of these things when you also need to still be focusing on the content, the overall structure of everything and running your channel. So it's a matter of managing a whole lot of things at the same time, I think.
I get asked this question a lot. Is like, when should I do sponsorship opportunities or how do I do them? And I always say, if you're starting out in the very beginning, focus on your content. Like, much better that you're able to build a loyal, solid community than chasing a lot of these different sponsorship opportunities in the very early days. Like, just focus on your content. And it actually, like, eventually you'll start to see people coming to you, and those are easier to manage than you going out all the time. So definitely in the early stages, focus more on you and your content, and that being the source of your main revenue source in the beginning, then spreading out to different opportunities. But I mean, I hope they get this right. I think the platforms have the best shot of doing this because when you talk about trust, like people, have more trust around YouTube getting this right, or more trust both on the brand and the creator side.
Yeah.
Than I think a third party. If a third party was come in, I think it's just hard for the brands, the brands to trust that third party and the creators to trust that third party. So I think platforms are the best shot. I just haven't seen anyone be successful with it to date. Maybe with this renewed excitement around the creator economy, maybe someone will get it right. I'm hopeful because I think there's a lot of value here, especially creating that trust and transparency around like they did the deliverable, they get paid. within 30
Sure.
days. Like I like the idea of it. I just haven't seen it get executed well yet.
And I feel like Instagram, I mean, these companies they're big enough, they have enough of a foundation, they have enough creators just even on their own platform that can be the building point. And maybe we are at that point now where we've hit a critical mass. There's enough people that we can start to see some of this pushed together and more revenue tools being used.
Going on to new platforms and opportunities, we're getting a lot of questions in chat. It's like, where should I focus? Where should I put my time on? There is a new thing that's popped up on the heels of Clubhouse. Mark, roll the clip.
Twitter will soon let creators charge admission to their live audio chat rooms called Spaces. Spaces can be accessed by anyone with more than 600 followers. Spotify CEO says live audio content is the next Stories as they acquire live audio app Locker Room. With Spotify, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, and Clubhouse all providing audio-only platforms, which one should I choose?
There are so many in the space right now. Mo even asked, like, yeah, what about Clubhouse? Isn't that like the number one space for this? Why does Twitter Spaces even need to necessarily be a thing? But there's a lot of people that don't even have Clubhouse, don't even want to get involved with that. It's hard to switch people over to the platforms in the first place. If you guys have ever tried to make content in one direction and try to send people to another platform, it could be really hard. Twitter already has so many users that I could see this definitely being viable. The fact that it's rolled out to now everybody over 600 followers is a win. I saw it pop up for me as well. And like they're trying to get me to use it and tell me about the feature and such. And even on my own feed, I don't know about you, but I've kind of been keeping an eye out for any of these that have been popping up. And really, it seems to only pop up at the top bar with stories. And, there's no, at least I couldn't find a general place to search for spaces on Twitter where people are having some of the conversations. And not really too many pop up for me there, though. I'm not sure how widely it's being adapted compared to something like Clubhouse, which seems to still really be booming on it.
Well, Twitter, it's a new product. There's a guy called Caven who's a product lead for it, and I think he was the guy that created. He was the CEO and founder of Periscope, if you remember that. That was like Twitter's live video. They killed it eventually, but he's the guy that's running Twitter Spaces now. And I'm excited by the potential here. I think there's a lot of room still to improve it, but the fact that you have that built-in audience already, rather than building a fresh new audience on Clubhouse, if you look at some of the charts, like you're able to look up, the traction that apps are getting online, and you can see Clubhouse had a massive spike beginning of this year through to like March timeframe, and then it just dropped off a cliff. Like their downloads have kind of dropped heavily after that big spike when everyone was excited about it. And the reason is it feels like a lot of people got burnt out, just hanging out on Clubhouse all day and lives was just exhausting and hard. And what's interesting is I think this new form of media, which is live audio, is kind of like, live streaming, just without the video.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think people are realizing how hard it is to create live content for a long period of time and stay engaging, and how exhausting it is, especially if you're doing it day in, day out. And I think a lot of people, especially on the creator side, got burnt out because there was a lot of, whether it's execs or like, senior people at these different companies, that were doing these live audio things. And I think people are just getting a little bit burned out on the format. The world's kind of going back to normal. So the pandemic, everyone was kind of sitting in at night and just tuning in to, hang out in an audio room. I think it's cool. I think there's a lot of things that I love about it. Like the fact that I can not have video and I can just be chilling on my sofa and having a cool conversation with a bunch of people. Like I do really like that. I just don't think, I think it's a feature. I don't think it's like a standalone product. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. And Toluca even mentioned too in the chat, like they had the invite only feature that helps to kind of drive some of this initial hype with it. And I think where Twitter actually probably does have an advantage, and I could see it is like because it is just a side feature, they have like regular tweets, they have video, they have so many other ways that you can create and stay up to date. Like you don't necessarily need to be there live, in that hangout for whatever it is and to maintain it and to keep things going. Like Twitter already does have a lot of foundation on it. So maybe it is something too. Some people were also saying like Bridger was like, are people even still using Clubhouse? In general,
definitely, if you
like,
look at the charts,
it's
it's died down on the charts, their number of
yeah,
downloads.
and so, it's like if some of these other platforms, like even Discord has a a feature like that with like stages now that you can kind of get up and just talk in front of a bunch of people, and you still have you have so much more behind that in a community or whatever that can already exist in some of those spaces.
We
And
ran one at a pipeline. So we ran at what we called a pipeline town hall because I kind of love the idea of live audio and this kind of where it's organic, low friction. Like anyone can just hop in Discord into the chat. We ran a pipeline town hall 3 weeks ago. I know a bunch of folks in chat were there, and I just loved it. It was so much fun. It was easy to drop in, easy for people to ask questions. There's no video, so you don't have to like be ready for camera or anything like that. And it was just a really nice organic way, and we're absolutely going to do one again. We're not going to make it like happen all the time, but we're absolutely going to do another stages because I just enjoyed the format, the way we could connect with the community. And I do think there's a place for it. I could see creators. I think, Sugar was asking in chat, like, how could creators do this? The idea of like a subscriber only hangout where you can imagine where just with your subscribers, you hang out for an hour on this day and you just kind of have a, shooting Q&A type thing. I think could be an interesting format where it's low friction for both the creator and the audience, just to drop in and ask questions. You would need someone to moderate it. That's the only thing. But I think that it's worth trying out as you try and create unique ways to encourage people to be subscribers or stay subscribed.
I think it's a really interesting way to get involved in communities too, because if you think about like, especially if you are somebody who is a just chatting type streamer, or you've got a whole, like if that's a big part of what you're going with and what your commentary is, right? If that's a big focus for you, this can be a really cool opportunity to where you don't even necessarily need your face, you don't need video, you don't need a game or something between that. But similar to how so many people have built audiences, even on Clubhouse, and have built like a name for themselves in different communities by continually jumping in on it and doing all the different things they do within it. That's an opportunity. And that's what I was talking about at the beginning of this too, is like, how do you search and find some of these things even in the first place? Maybe it is something that you got to be following the right people to actually see which ones are live and then get involved with it and see if you can hop in and even be a speaker in it. Like there's a lot of different ways that you might be able to get involved with that. That also, I mean, how much easier is it to actually to have a discussion and explain yourself just over audio versus just like one sentence, or maybe somebody spends 5 seconds reading something for you. They don't even know the context. They're not reading the full thread or whatever it might be, but you can jump in and have an audio discussion and actually, get to know people better on some of those platforms. Like I think that could be an interesting way to use it as well, especially as, depends on what your platform is. Going back to what you were talking about as well earlier, is like depends on what your platform is, where your demographic might be, and what kind of your interest is going to be in terms of which of the platforms you decide to work on. But all of these are trying to get in the space, and so there's a lot of exciting opportunities here.
Switching gears to exciting opportunities, I
Yeah.
got wind of this, and I'm actually really kind of excited. I'm low key excited for the potential here. Mark, roll the clip.
TikTok live streaming is growing fast. Now with Streamlabs integration, more and more are going live on the viral platform. Should I go live on TikTok instead of Facebook or Twitch? And what TikTok strategies have worked for you?
TikTok is such a like quick grasping. I almost feel like it's very similar to Facebook as well, where you like, because it just auto plays, right? So it's like you can just jump right into things. And that was one of the things, even when I was first streaming on Facebook and started to do battle royales with it, was like I would even wait until I was already halfway through a game, or at least like in a flight path, and the game was already going before I even started my stream. So people would tune in, they're already in it. I'm building suspense and hype on some of those things. I think there's a lot of different ways that you could do that on TikTok as well. And so, especially with different games, especially if it already resonates with the person, like there can be a lot of ways that you can hype something and build a lot of interest in it. I think you're going to have a lot, even more people that are just kind of like tune in for 5 seconds and keep going, maybe even 1 second or whatever, if they just don't even like the look of your hair or whatever for the day, or the beard, which you should stay for a good beard. You know what I'm saying? But
I wish I could grow a good beard. I just can't. I think one of the things that I would like to highlight here is before like going live on a mobile device or a mobile app, right? It was like I go live and I'm like, it's just my screen. I think the big difference here is there was a partnership between Streamlabs and a partnership with TikTok, where you actually were able to stream directly to the RNTP. Like you're able to go directly to the app, which is a big difference because it allows you to unlock a level of production value that just doing it from the mobile app like would not allow. And it's actually pretty cool. I've seen some folks sharing tweets around like how they were structuring, like, maximizing the real estate, like it's vertical. So what we do with you putting your camera at the top and having the gameplay center, but still having a UI that makes sense. People were being really innovative and like trying to explore how you could make the most of this vertical format, but doing live content. And I think some people are gonna blow up on this format, and I am excited to see them do that. I think there's an opportunity, and just the amount of people that are using TikTok every single day. I think they'll maybe face a bit of a challenge with like YouTube. YouTube Live is kind of hard to discover. It's not easy unless you already have an audience. It's kind of hard to discover it because their VOD is so big for them, right? Their VOD first, and then live is kind of second.
Yeah.
TikTok, short form VOD is their kind of go-to, and then live is going to be secondary. So I'm wondering how they're going to make the discovery element happen. I think they'll probably do something similar to Instagram Live, where you had that carousel, where it's like live content you could see now that you're following, something like that. I think that's my only thing is if you were going to be a live first creator, would I want to go live on TikTok? Not sure.
I think it can definitely create a lot more fluctuation with things, and that's something that I mean, I've even seen. I think there's a lot of parallels with this to Facebook. A lot of the discoverability, at least from what I'm seeing too, is just it's from the For You page, right? So as people are just scrolling through as they normally would, one of them is a stream. And for me, I'm seeing way more streams, especially over the past few weeks. Like, I don't know if it's like 1 in 20, 1 in 50 or whatever they're doing, but there are more streams that are popping up. And a lot of them are something that's like, I've seen some that are even like, I don't even remember but it's a lot of people building suspense and trying to get people to stay for longer. And then you'll just try and see like, okay, we're going to do something when the number hits this. And they're just like, there's a lot of different ways that people will try and build suspense and get more people to stay. Cause then more people stay, it keeps feeding the algorithm and it builds into so like, that's where I think some of the fluctuations and things can come. And even in the game space too. Yes, it's going to be very different as well because it is vertical. Actually, one of the early times when Facebook rolled out it was also again very similar. People are scrolling vertically through their phone. They're on their phone in a normal, vertical fashion. And so a lot of people would even stream in a vertical portrait because it took up way more of the screen. So as people are scrolling, they either spend, another second scrolling past it because it's bigger rather than doing widescreen, which I've also seen streamers test out. And because it's so widescreen, it makes it super short in the feed, and then people scroll past it faster and whatever. And just keeping that extra second could be a hook, could be just interesting because nobody's even seen a stream like that. I think it offers a lot more potential as well to do gimmicky type things with it being vertical. Maybe that's doing something funny with a green screen, with some type of interaction with the chat. I
We're
don't
gonna see
exactly
so
know,
much.
but
We're gonna see so much innovation here.
I think so. And like it's going to be an area where like if people are already like the platform, they already have interest in it, and they're willing to spend some time and try to innovate on some of that. Like I think we could see some really interesting stuff, and then it could translate really well to all being on one platform and really trying to expand on that front.
I think that's
Uh,
an exciting opportunity for those listening that are new creators. If you're still experimenting in that very early stage of trying different platforms out and seeing what works for you, when you see things like this, it's a great opportunity to experiment. It's not to say I'm not saying you should go all in on TikTok Live or anything like that. I'm just saying at the very early stages, you have more flexibility to try out different things before you're consistently developing on one platform. So be open to trying this out and seeing what happens. It could be one of those things that you get in early on and you could have an opportunity to blow up, especially the way discovery happens on TikTok. So if you're just trying out, you're just getting started, why not try it?
yeah, I'm even seeing something from a moment with Alex. He said I'm seeing a lot of Twitch affiliate streamers even going live on TikTok, which is interesting. I think there is some limitations in terms of like waiting 24 hours before you go live on a different platform, or some, there might be some issue with that. So I don't know if that's what you're getting at with some of that, or if you're saying that you're seeing a lot more people just going to the platform in general and trying to stream on it. I think if you probably have some experience on streaming in general, it could be interesting to try it out. It can be hard to split some of the audiences and try, especially if you're not live at the same time on some of the different platforms. But, to Snoopeh's point, if you're very early on and just at the very beginning of all of this, it could be interesting to actually try and, you know, try this as a platform or try something else as you're getting into it and diving into it.
Yeah, Green Man was asking, is it just IRL lives or is it everything? And it's everything. I think that the cool thing about RTMP and like having an API to plug into is that you can be very creative with the formats and making use of the real estate. So it's any type of content that you could
I
do.
have seen a lot of people use it even like, just showing their face while they're also live on, um, Twitch or whatever
Oh, to get
platform.
that extra distribution. Yeah.
Yeah, so then people see it and it's like, "Oh, come over to my Twitch if since I'm live." Some of that though doesn't really bring a lot of engagement to where if you're like hyping something up and like, "We're gonna do this in 30 seconds," and you're hyping whatever it up, like you can get a lot more people to stay right on that actual platform and it can get into more For You pages and grow from some of that. But this is what some of the early experimenting is looking like right now on TikTok. And so that's where I think we're gonna start seeing some of the divides and seeing some people
Well,
thrive with it even.
definitely one to keep an eye on. Our next topic is we kind of touched a little bit on this earlier, which is approaching brands. Mark, roll the clip.
Now that I've got my TikTok up and running, I've got a couple 1 million plus TikToks. So how do I approach a brand to get a deal? How do I actually get the deal? And what's the difference between a brand partnership, activation, and a campaign?
Yeah, this is a question we get asked quite a lot, and I want to reinforce just that very early point, which is in the beginning, don't focus on brand deals in the beginning. Focus on your content. That's going to be the thing that's going to make this a long term career and kind of opportunity. It doesn't mean if Activision comes to you and says, "Hey, got this really cool thing, would love you to be a part of it." Of course, like that's something you'd say yes to. But if it's like XYZ company that's coming to you that isn't really that strategic for you, I would in the beginning probably say no to it and just focus on your content in the beginning. So you've got some viral videos. I think we're actually seeing some of our members, especially shorts and things, they're getting some videos go viral, and they're like, "Well, I have this traction. Like, what can I do with it?" What do you have? Because you've had a lot of videos go viral over the years, Stone,
Yeah.
and you've kind of built your career alongside of those viral moments. But when you had them, was it like something you wanted to capitalize on, or was it like, what did you feel and what happened for you when you had those videos go viral?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I was always focused on when content was going viral was how do I convert it to basically people sticking around and seeing more of it. I learned early on that the more that I can actually have things already ready for people, the more that would work. So having playlists ready, if a video goes good, being able to link an entire playlist of even more of those videos and more of that content and really hook people in on it was something that I learned. And as more things went viral, there was so much more and more for me to talk about over the years and years of building up the content, building up my volume. And that's why I was always very focused on creating more volume with it. And so even when I got a deal or, even when something went viral, it wasn't necessarily like I was thinking like, okay, how do I get some other brand? How do I go promote some other brand? Right? Like maybe there's a way, like if I'm already working with somebody or if I've got something coming up and, maybe we could work together and this could be a really good showcase where like, okay, I did this branded piece of content and it also did really good. Maybe it was coming off of something going pretty viral. So I managed to get a lot of views on it. And now this is a great kind of portfolio piece that I could show to people of like, hey, look at what I've done with some of these other brands. This got a whole bunch of views on it and this was sponsored content. You know what I mean? Because so that's a big area to think about, but I was always thinking about it with like, okay, well, how do I a lot of it was like, how do I self-promote my content? How do I try and get people to subscribe, to follow, as well as to entice them with what's coming up in the future, not only with obviously what I've done, but like people are not going to subscribe if it's not future content that's going to be coming. That's the only reason that they're going to follow, subscribe, or whatever is because they want to see the next thing that you're going to be doing. So it was
Yep.
always like I was always very much still focused, like, okay, how do I keep on going off of what this is, keep on tailing it into even more views from whatever kind of the initial thing was. And then from that, at least having a door open for it. So what I would say is if you don't yet have a business email or some way for people to contact you, having that somewhere that's readily available and having something that is professional with it, that can go a long way. And hopefully that's something that, if somebody sees something going viral, maybe you'll see a couple different companies seeing that, or even a company you've worked with in the past, or maybe one you're familiar with. That might be an opportunity where they want to jump on the bandwagon for it. And by all means, like, that's something that could very well happen. It could be a big win-win for the both of you on that. But
I think
I
your
think that
point, you the
yeah.
one which is when those moments are happening, especially early when you get videos like maybe it's not a million views, it might just be like you're normally getting like say 1,000 views and one gets like 50,000 views, and you're like, wow, I had this like how do I capitalize on that? I think David's point is really salient and really important is, and we touch on this in the playbook, retained viewers and retained audience is like got to be your number one priority. And how do I keep get this flywheel going of I have this massive moment, how do I turn them into loyal followers that are they're going to stick around and tune in my content? If you can crack that and keep making that happen, that's going to be better for your long-term trajectory than this one activation. To directly answer the point of like, getting a brand deal, I would in the beginning focus on brands that just really excite you. Like something you just like use in your day-to-day life that it's just a part of you and your identity. Those are the best brand deals to get in the beginning. The other ones where they might approach you. So say it's like, I don't know, I think Kleenex or is it Kleenex? I think one of these companies, Charmin, that's it. Charmin, I've seen all over Twitch right now. If like Charmin was to like approach you, and that's like a really cool opportunity where they're coming to you, or like Doritos is like coming to you. But in the beginning, I would just focus on you being aligned with brands that are fit into your life. It's just like a part of what you do already and of who you are and have been for a while. That's the brands that I would reach out to in the beginning because you're just gonna have a much more authentic relationship. Um, as you get bigger and bigger, you'll start to have brands coming to you just because they want your eyeballs. Like they want, to get their brand in front of your viewers. In the beginning, and focus on the ones that you have some alignment with. I think that's really important.
Yeah, even the first thing that I ever did that was really involved with a sponsor in general was like, I was reaching out to some companies. It wasn't something I was super proactive on, but it was something that I spent a little bit of time on. And it was areas that it actually worked out or, was in line. I needed a new headset. And so I reached out to some headset companies. I'm not sure if they're even still around anymore, the initial one, but I basically offered, showed them some of my content that I got some views on it and that I would do an unboxing, kind of tie some of that in. It ended up going out really well. They basically just sent me one for free. And it was like a cool kind of first step into some of the space, but it wasn't something that I was like super active on a lot of those fronts. And eventually more deals and interests started to come my way. As things were happening. But I always kept it very professional with what I was doing. I had some of those outlets and resources available. And, I was reaching out even to some of the companies that I was playing. That was how I got involved with EA in the first place, with Titanfall, with Battlefield. And that opened a lot of doors up for me after that because that, wasn't necessarily even something that was paid. It was kind of playing some of the games and but they were all games that I was really interested in. It was just really well in line with a lot of those things, but it was also putting myself out there to have some of those things become available in the first place, or at least know that I'm interested in those things to even begin with.